Linval Joseph has been like one of your least favorite guys to go against.
Yeah, he's a tough matchup for me for sure. Not only is he a very large human being, but he's very smart. It's evident when I've played him before. He picks up on things quickly, formations, where the back's at. He's good at reading, offensive linemen. So I think he will obviously be a good addition to the defense. And, I've played him a lot. I played him when he's in New York Giants twice a year for a couple of years, played him in Minnesota in a lot of important games. So we've had our battles for sure.
When you then see him as a teammate in the hall?
I don't know. I just did it. I mean, we just ran into each other for the first time. So it was pretty cool. It's funny not funny, it's just, it's cool when you have that much respect for somebody. You've played against them as much as we've played against each other to all of a sudden be on the same team. So I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better. When I was going through some elbow things this offseason, the surgery I had in training camp, they were one of the guys he was a guy that they said you're more than welcome to reach out to, and he told me, don't worry about anything. You need anything, reach out. So, it just seems like a great guy. I've heard nothing but good things as a teammate. And, again, we've been up against each other a lot, so I know he's a good player.
When you're blocking one of those space-eating nose tackles, how do you approach whether it's a double or match up with him alone? Like, do you feel like you're playing into what their plan is for him, to take two blockers and take both gaps, or as an offense? Yeah,
it's more complicated than that. It depends on depends on what the play is being called, the technique of what they're teaching the down linemen. There's a lot that goes into decisions in the run game and where the linebackers are at and, what coverage it is. All these things play into where you're going to double and things like that. But, from the defense's perspective, having a big guy in the middle obviously creates, it takes up blockers, right? When we play a 5 down front and you have a nose guard head up on the center, and you have 5 guys covering all 5 offensive linemen, it's harder for guys to get up at the second level right now. And that is regardless of, I guess, the size of the guy. But I think the bigger that nose guard is also can be advantageous for certain things.
What's your sense of how the chance to speak to Jeff Saturday yesterday, and he spoke about his background with you, and from your perspective, what did he mean early in your career as kind of someone to look for in that offense?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, the first 2 years of my career, I spent a lot of time watching Jeff Saturday tape. Howard Mudd had coached him his whole tenure in Indianapolis pretty much, and he was the guy that, for me, being an undersized player and running the same system and a lot of the same plays that I tried to emulate my game after. And Howard had me reach out to him, or he said it was available if I wanted to go meet up with him, and I was able to meet Jeff I think it was right after my rookie year. But, he's been nothing but open to helping me in my career the entire time. Matter of fact, he reached out this past year still while he was an analyst before this whole thing happened and was saying, we're happy you guys are playing well, wishing you luck the rest of the season. And I'm sure he's not wishing us luck anymore this week. But, he's always been, more than available to help me out and lend any advice that he can. And for me, just as a player, I modeled a lot of the things that I do after Jeff Saturday. So, I obviously he's a guy that I look up to and have a tremendous amount of respect for, not just as a player, but as a person from everything I've heard in my personal interactions.
What's your sense of how the team is responding this week after their first loss?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you lose, emotions are different. You're going to be a little bit more aggressive in correcting mistakes. You're going to be a little bit more on edge. But to be honest, I don't think that we really change it up that much, and I don't think you should. I mean, we make corrections after wins the same way we're doing it right now. Like I said, the emotion's different and the urgency is different after a loss. But, I think we do a good job of, sticking to, what we believe is going to be the end result of making us a better team, which is correcting mistakes, being accountable, showing the right way to do it, showing the wrong way to do it. We do that. We've done that after every win, and we certainly did it after the loss against Indianapolis. So I would say that, not too much has changed other than the emotions and overall urgency that comes with after losing a game.
Jason, what do you remember specifically about that meeting with Jeff in 2012?
Man. So I don't know if I want to get into a specific thing, to be honest with you. I mean, there were technique things that he was more than willing to assist me in, and things that I struggle with within the offense and didn't know necessarily how to do. And Howard and the coaches have one mindset or one frame of reference, right, as a coach, and Howard also played, but largely their frame of reference is a little bit different. So when you ask a player, they're going to have a little bit different nuance or different idea that they've gained from their frame of reference. And, he helped me in a few things that I think I was struggling in, that he was able to frame it differently, which overall helped my game.
Jason, you've been on teams where obviously you have a spate of injuries, key players going out for quite a while, and obviously some years like the Super Bowl you guys are able to overcome it, other years not quite as much. What kind of like sense do you get, like how you guys are dealing with these injuries you guys are having this year?
Well, first, I think we've handled injuries really well, to be honest with you, pretty much our entire time here. And I think we have good depth. I think the coaches do a good job of coaching up the young players and making sure that if their number's called, they got to be ready to go. Offensive line-wise, I know that's been the case. We've had a lot of guys play a lot of snaps, and we've still been able to function and largely do our jobs. And a lot of that comes down to Jeff Stoutland's, just being relentless in the way he coaches and prepares players. And I think for the most part, we've been like that across the board. 2017 is obviously the pinnacle where you win a Super Bowl and, with a bunch of guys that, were pushed into playing time because of injuries. But, I would not blame an injury necessarily as a loss. The only one that really could possibly be like that was the Seattle playoff game, I guess, where it happened in the middle of the game and a starting quarterback goes down. That's a hard situation to overcome. But even, Josh McCown went out there and played pretty good. So, I think they do a great job here of handling injuries and making sure that guys are ready to go.
Jason, a couple more, please. Jason.
Maybe
Sorry.
Andy Reid's last year was one year that the injuries really derailed that season. I'd say that.
You made a kind of passionate response to missed calls on the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you find most players have your sort of sentiment, or is it more difficult for some to overcome?
I think I don't know. I think most players, and especially most good players, feel like they control the outcomes of the games. Now, I think you can realize that players get upset when a call's missed. That happens. I think, when a official makes a call or misses one that you disagree with, you're going to be emotional about it or be upset about it. But when you take a look back over the course of the game, there's very few games that I feel like the official has been a determining factor, or the determining factor, I should say, in the game. The one that comes out right away is the New Orleans Saints playoff game with the pass interference that was missed, right? And it was so bad that they ended up coming out with a whole new rule where they were going to replay pass interference calls, and that lasted for 1 year because it was a complete debacle. This is the reality of the game. There's going to be calls that go your way. There's going to be calls that don't go your way. And you end up focusing on these calls when you lose games. Because it's an easy thing to say, if we would have had that call, we would have won the game. If Dallas Goedert doesn't fumble because it's called a face mask, we win the game. That's not necessarily the case. it certainly were there were bigger things in that game that kept us from winning that game than that call. As a matter of fact, we had another opportunity that next drive with a huge completion that unfortunately we turned the ball over again. So you don't hear winners and teams that win complaining about officials missing calls too often. I think that is something that is highly overemphasized when teams lose games or people lose bets. So that's my own opinion on criticizing what's going on in the official world right now. So, yeah.
How's your ankle? Jason saw you get wrapped pretty good
Yeah.
during the game, limited yesterday.
It's good. I mean, it's kind of same ankle that was sprained before, re-aggravated it, but, nothing haven't played with before, so be good.